Now hold up there, I realize some of you may be jumping to say, but wait, budget doesn't affect animation quality, and you'd be correct in asserting that as a generality. For years, we as people who study the anime industry have been pushing to get the broader public to understand that budget does not correlate with animation quality to a meaningful degree whatsoever. Things like One Punch Man and all of Kyoto Animation series have totally average budgets, and in fact, oftentimes if a project goes over budget, that's because its production is a mess, resulting in worse quality and higher costs just to try to deal with the disorganization and rush. However, as with all generalities, there are exceptions, and the Pokémon anime is one such exception. And that makes sense. As part of a mix of media properties for the Behemoth franchise, the Pokémon anime is operating pretty differently than most other series. Let's get down to brass facts. According to Pokemon's ace animator Masaki Iwane, the series used to have a per-episode drawing count that was right around the industry average, but starting with the XY anime, that increased, and now a given Pokemon episode has around 20 to 30% more drawings than is the average. Now, drawings are essentially the currency that the industry trades in. According to an NHK documentary on animator wages, animators tend to get paid around $1.80 per drawing, which is depressingly low and frankly unacceptable. This looks like it's key animation on screen when that price is given, but perhaps that's how much in-betweeners get per drawing. I don't want to state things conclusively and have come to the wrong conclusion here, but either way, they are not getting paid enough for this. However, with that being the case, obviously increasing the drawing count increases the animation budget. These per-drawing prices are fairly standardized across the industry. As I said, you can't just pay more and get better animation generally. But, as I also said, there are exceptions, and in this case there are some animators who charge more for their animation, like Nakaya Onsen, who I covered in my video on Eromanga Sensei's animation situation. Typically though, a production will just be going with that standard rate, even for its highly skilled animators. And so typically, in order to stay on budget, anime has to make sure not to go over its allotted drawing count. Pokemon having more drawings per episode means, in basic terms, that it has more frames of animation. TV series, movies, etc. typically run at 24 frames per second, and anime is often animated on threes, meaning one new drawing every 3 frames, and thus meaning every second there are 8 new drawings. For action scenes, this often goes up to being animated on twos, a new drawing every 2 frames, allowing for 12 new drawings every second. You get the idea. More drawings means smoother animation is theoretically allowed for, means fewer scenes have to be a character standing still flapping their lips so that precious drawings aren't wasted on conversation scenes. Due to being government funded through the Animator Training Project, the first Little Witch Academia OVA had an insane 17,000 drawings, which really shows. And similarly, the Sun and Moon anime feels so lively, so bouncy, and so visually energetic in good part because of these extra drawings it has, along with things like its extremely animation-friendly designs. Even the Sun and Moon anime has its drawing limits though, and one of the ways Masaki Iwane likes to manage that drawing count is by solo key animating his episodes. This is, as it sounds, when an animator does all of the animation for a given episode. Iwane is well practiced at this, and in fact early in Sun and Moon's run, every few episodes we'd have another one fully key animated by Iwane. In this interview he says that it generally takes a month and a half for him to do it. He says that he likes to do this because he's got complete control of how the drawings get distributed. If there's multiple animators on an episode, and one of them has a simple conversation scene, they have to be allotted some drawings to work with. You can't just go, all you get is one pose and lip flaps, sorry. Iwane likes to reserve his drawings for the big moments of an episode, and so getting rid of this concern about fairly distributing drawings to a whole crew makes his job a lot easier. As Iwane said, every drawing that you don't use for a conversation scene can then be used for an action scene. Stop when you need to stop and move when you need to move. If you do it that way, then your episode will have just as many drawings as all the others. The way Iwane talks about it, the drawing count almost feels like a stamina meter, a resource that you've got to carefully manage and employ at the correct time for maximum impact. And that's why Pokémon is the Dark Souls of anime. To To suggest that more drawings equals better animation just automatically would be very off base though. Iwane's episodes tend to be real standouts that look even better than the norm for the series, but he's working with the same number of drawings as every other episode of Pokémon. In animation, you can do a lot with a little, and Iwane says that he consciously thinks about how to make his movements feel bigger when animating, in order to once again use drawings more efficiently. Dumping budget into anime won't make it look better in a vacuum. Those extra drawings will have a minimal impact without skilled animators making use of them. And as I went over in my video earlier this month on Kyoto Animation, talent can often be stretched quite thin in this industry. And drawings aren't at all the be-all end-all. As Iwane said in this interview, in animation the drawings are just one part of the incredibly complex machine that makes up the overall picture. Some of the most spectacular episodes of anime this year, from a visual standpoint, have been relatively resource-light episodes, which were elevated by the incredible creators heading them and able to shine not just in spite of those constraints, but because of them. Revue Starlight was an extremely ambitious production, one that had its team publicly worrying about if they'd even be able to complete it in the time they had. And even relative to the impressive baseline the series set, Episode 8 was a standout, an incredible, luscious production effort that the staff had hyped us up for. Part of what made that possible was how resource-light Episode 7 was, allowing 8 to get special focus. According to the series director, Episode 7 had half the normal drawing count of a typical episode of anime, and yet through the incredibly striking storyboards he himself provided for the episode, and the remarkable work of Masatsuga Arakawa, who was on layouts and who, according to Sakuga blog, conceptualized every single shot in this episode, the massive twist of the series was given as much weight and charisma as it deserved. Nearly every shot in this is one of the year's most striking, and collectively they set a near unrivaled degree of tone for the episode. On the opposite side of the tonal spectrum, we're revisiting Hakuto Precure, which in episode 15 gave us literally one of the very most hilarious episodes of anime this year. Seriously, even if you aren't watching the show, I'd recommend going to watch this episode standalone. It's that good. Just like the fabulous 4th episode of the series that I covered a while back, this episode was directed by Yuta Tanaka, but this time he didn't have the lavish animation resources at his disposal that he did for episode 4. Instead, this was, like Revue Starlight's 7th episode, the precursor to a giant animation effort, and so, like that episode, it had to make do with more limited resources. And it makes just about as good a use of them as is conceivably possible. There's so many different, inventive, and gut-busting uses of sliding stills here that would have been less funny if they were more animated. And when it is animated, limited animation is employed to stellar effect. It's goofy as hell, cartoony as heck, and possesses a rhythm and pace that you just don't get in more conventional episodes. So yes, while Pokémon Sun and Moon does almost certainly have a budget that's a bit higher than most other anime, and while that certainly does help, you should still remember that budget isn't the first, second, third, or even fourth most important determinant of an anime's visual quality. X and Y also had that increased drawing count, but it wasn't until the designs were revamped for Sun and Moon that we truly got this incredible deluge of fantastic loose animation coming out of the series. Even with those designs and that drawing count, if OLM didn't have immensely skilled creators like Masaki Iwane contributing to the series, it wouldn't be able to shine nearly as much. And even with far fewer resources, this industry is filled with people creative and talented enough to make some of the best episodes of the year without having too much at their disposal to do it with. If anything, I'd want anime to get a budget increase not to add more drawings, but to pay those already doing the drawings a lot better for their work. But that'd require reforming the very structure of the anime industry, and that's a discussion for another day. And I almost forgot, but a huge thank you to Dogasu over on Bulba Garden for translating that interview that served as the backbone for this video. It was a very lengthy one, so I'm deeply appreciative of his work. Go check it and all my other sources for this video out in the pinned comment below. For now, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope my fellow Sakuga-splainers aren't too upset with me for the title. I made sure to ground my claims here in comments from the staff to ensure their accuracy to the best of my ability. This is a vid I'd gathered the materials for a few months back, and thankfully Bring Back the Romance was finally my chance to get it put together. As always, if you'd like to help enable this kind of research-driven informational content's existence on a website that often seems hostile to that approach, your support on Patreon would be greatly appreciated. A gigantic thank you goes out to Psyker, MathWiz97, Jonathan Conley, Tyler Monk, TeenCho37, Lord Liquid Bacon III, Elaine Aldfelt, David McCown, Hajort Dog, Smokeweed Sephiroth 420, J-Man 4747, Peach Plum, Chase Sutter, The Sorcerer, Lucas Holcomb, and everyone else who's supporting me on there already.